Hey everyone, I wanted to just chat for a few minutes. I'm here with my colleagues Blake Richards, and listen, the Liberals have just introduced a bill and they're going to be debating it really soon, I think probably in the next week or so. You guys need to know about this. Remember when Justin Trudeau tried to change the way that we held elections? First of all, he said there'll be nothing different, or we're going to change it. There will be no more first past the post. Tried to rig it so that the elections would work better for him. Canadians said no. Guess what? He's at it again. I cannot believe this legislation. Blake, was C-76?
Yes.
C-76.
Yeah.
Blake, tell them what he's doing now.
Well, you've explained it nicely because there's context to this whole thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when you've had multiple attempts by the same Prime Minister to try and change the rules of either the elections or of the way the Parliament works to try and benefit himself and to benefit his own party.
You know what? You're right. He's done this before. Last year, tried to change the rules around Parliament. Remember, he didn't want to work on Friday.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, anyway, continue. We've seen this.
Of course, the first thing was he tried to change the electoral system to make sure that, it was benefiting the Liberal Party. And then the next thing was, well, I don't want to be accountable to anybody, so I'll just change all the rules. And now he's come up with this elections law change, which essentially is going to open up the potential for 1 million fraudulent votes in the next election.
What do you mean 1 million fraudulent votes?
So when I say that, what I'm talking about is there's what we call the voter information card. You all would get them, right? They come in the mail to tell you where to vote. Yeah,
like your name is on. You get that card in the mail. Your name is on it, and your poll.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it tells you where to vote, and that's what they're meant to be. They're information for the voter. But the Liberals want to make that into ID. Now, our elections law now allows 39 different forms of ID. Like, there's plenty of choices here. Like, anyone who wants to vote has some form of ID that they can use.
Your health card, your
39. Library cards, prescriptions. Like, there is so many examples. There's 39 of them.
Yeah.
So don't tell me that there isn't a way for someone to find one of those pieces of ID that they can use to vote. And they want to take these cards that are sent out and allow people to use them as ID. Now, the problem with these cards is when you ask Elections Canada, they say that 16% of them at any given time are erroneous, the records in the National Register of Electors. And last election, 1 million of them went out to the wrong people.
But so what you're saying is they're being sent out to the wrong people, wrong addresses, which I think we all know. Like, we've either gotten wrong ones or
you can understand why it happens.
Has the addresses mixed up.
Right? I mean, it's there's someone deceased. You move. There's all kinds of reasons why they would have the wrong information. But if there's 1 million of them going out wrong, that's a bit of a problem.
That is. So people can. What you're saying is people can take that card. It might not actually belong to them. Now, here's where you guys might be like me. I was asking Blake about this earlier. So if I get a card in the mail that actually it doesn't have my name on it, I could go, and if I wanted to have somebody vouch for me and say that I am that person, I could then vote.
Yes.
Now, keep in mind, folks, we fixed this under our previous government, under the Fair Elections Act. Our Fair Elections Act actually made it so that more people voted in the last election. People were able to vote easier. But we wanted people to show ID. I mean, you can't do really anything in this country without showing ID. And to vote, you should have to show ID.
That's
so
exactly it.
This is the context of this. But now the Liberals, no surprise, Justin Trudeau is going to make it easier for people to vote fraudulently.
Yeah, and that's their argument here. They're saying, well, we're going to make it easier for people to vote. Well, they're forgetting a part of it. We're going to make it easier for people to vote fraudulently. Because right now, there is no trouble to vote. I mean, it was proved in the last election, as you said, Candice, right? I mean, there was more people that voted than the last election. So if this was actually somehow making it more difficult, wouldn't we have noticed that? Yeah. And I haven't heard of one documented case where someone was turned away from being able to vote because they didn't have the ID that was necessary. I mean, it's hard to imagine with these 39 different forms of ID that there wouldn't be something that you would have. And to think that there's 1 million of these cards floating out there that are wrong, and that gives the opportunity for people to use, and we would be kidding ourselves if we didn't think that there's going to be people that would try to use these things fraudulently if given the opportunity, right? Why would we want to disrespect the franchise and the vote of every other single Canadian with the potential for fraudulent activity? Why would we want to do that?
There's one other area of this bill that I wanted to ask you about. Actually, Blake and I are heading into a meeting with some of our colleagues right now to talk about how we should be approaching this. So we really would like your input. We are going to need your help to flood the Prime Minister's phone, email, make sure that he knows that you are opposed to him trying to rig the system. But there's another part of this, and that's this third-party influence. Money coming in, influencing our elections, and what's this legislation going to do to stop this? Or don't tell me it won't do anything, because it actually helps the left.
Well, yeah, that's so. I think we all understand that elections are for Canadians, right? It's Canada's choice for who should be our next government, and we shouldn't be opening it up and allowing foreigners to influence that with their money. No one would. I don't think there's anyone out there that would agree with that. So what they're actually doing is they're going to actually more than double the amount that these what we call third-party advocacy groups can spend. Now these are groups that want to support or oppose a political party. That we've heard lots of stories about, particularly anti-pipeline groups that have pumped a lot of money in the past and tried to influence the election to benefit foreign oil over Canadian oil.
Vivian Krause has done some really good work on that.
Lots of research out there about that. And at the end of the day, if you're going to increase by more than double what these groups can spend, and you're not going to do anything to regulate foreign money coming in, now Liberals will claim that they are doing that because during the election period, they are actually saying you can't put foreign money in, but
prior to
just before, so they've set a date
Ontario,
of June 30th.
Look at what's happening in Ontario, right?
So June 29th, if you want to pump money and you're some foreign person who wants to prevent Canadian oil from getting out there, say you wanted to put, let's say, $15 million into the Canadian election. Well, these groups are allowed to spend $1.5 million from June 30th until election day. So let's say you're a foreigner, you want to put this money in, find 10 of these groups, get them to promote your agenda, put $1.5 million into each one of them on June 29th. June 30th, they open up their bank account for this purpose and they move that money over, and no one's the wiser. So there you've just dumped $15 million into elections. At the same time, they're actually trying to limit how much Canadian political parties can spend of their own fundraised money that they've brought in from Canadians. So we're trying to silence the ability for Canadians to support political parties and see that money be used legitimately. And at the same time, let's bring in more foreign money and see a way for foreigners to influence our elections. It just seems completely backwards to me.
Did you notice our fundraising numbers just came in, and actually Conservatives have been doing a really great job. We've been able to get so much support from our supporters and people who believe in our message, believe in Andrew Scheer. So we have outraised the Liberals almost 2-1 in the last quarter. So is it any surprise that they want to limit the ability for political parties where we raise the money legitimately from Canadians under our fundraising rules? They want to stop us from being able to use that money and instead give themselves an advantage by these left-wing groups from the States, anti-development, anti-oil groups, anti-conservative groups that want to help Liberal elections. It's really unbelievable to see this once again. Trudeau, a lot of people, Trudeau failing the system and failing people. A lot of people voted for Justin because they believed that he was going to do things differently. I think for those of us who have worked with him, you and I were elected when he was in 2008, we saw a lot of his phoniness, but a lot of people believed that he was going to do things differently. And he has failed. And instead of owning up to his failures and being a responsible leader, he then tries to change the system. He's always trying to make it easier for himself.
It's always about himself.
Exactly, exactly.
And I think that's at the end of the day, like anyone out there, you've all seen enough examples of Justin Trudeau doing what he can to try to benefit himself. You've seen all kinds of examples of that. You see that he can't be trusted. So you know that this legislation is only meant to benefit him. And if you don't want to stand for that and you won't stand for that, you got to speak up and let him know he can't get away with it. Yep.
Social media, call his office, email. We're going to work hard for you. We're going to hold them to account. We're going to do everything we can in terms of the House of Commons and what we can do in Parliament. And we'll keep informing you and keep you posted on what's going on. So thanks for chatting.
Absolutely. Thank you, Candace.
Talk to you later.